Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. This is the OSR Table live stream. I am DM Bluddworth, and as you can see, a totally different location. Doing this from work, so it's going to be a very brief live stream. Just wanted to bring you up to date on a few things going on with the channel, and the reason why I'm doing this from work is that, I just came off a vacation and I stepped into a 70 plus hour work week. So I'm filling in for a colleague who was sick and not coming back until later on in the week. And so, I told him that I would pick up the slack and fill in for him. And so these next couple of days, I'm running about 15-hour days throughout the rest of the week. Although I may actually get out a little bit earlier this afternoon, which I'm really looking forward to, because that means that I won't have to postpone our session 30 of our AD&D first edition campaign. So what I wanted to do was just bring you up to date with the channel, because it has been about a week since my last video went up, my last live video went up, and just wanted to get caught up here. So first of all, the channel news update videos will be delayed this week due to work. I plan on returning to and catching up on some things by March 6th, which I believe is Saturday. So looking forward to, it's either Saturday or actually March 5th. March 5th is Saturday. And so I'm looking to get caught up by March 5th, and we will get right back into our regular schedule of gaming. And then I will get back to the channel and, and uploads and such, and get all of that done. So, as I just mentioned, the Keepers of Quasqueton campaign session 30 will resume today, unless my players would prefer to do it on the weekend, because I know I already sent out a message to them and let them know that, initially that I wouldn't be available today, and maybe we'll have to postpone until the weekend. And then I got a call around 2 hours ago or so that today's need for me to go into the office is not necessarily going to happen. So we'll get back to, hopefully we can get back to our regular schedule tonight. But if not, we'll put that off. The campaign recaps for sessions 28 and 29 are delayed until this upcoming weekend. Yeah, I kind of fell behind on those, so I'm looking to get back on those as well. So hopefully that will come very, very soon. We have a comment in here. Yes, you will get more Keepers of Quasqueton. I promise you that. Just give you a real brief recap of the last two sessions. So the last two sessions, the group had pushed into what turned out to be they finished up the bugbears. They went into a were-rat hold, were-rat lair, kind of, and then they worked into one of the portions of an orc lair. And so that's where they kind of left off with, was just half that portion of the orc lair, and they will pick up where they left off, and and either continue on through the remainder of the orc lair, or they may go someplace else. We'll see how that runs. That'll either be today, this evening, or sometime later in the week. So just playing that by ear right now. But thank you for the interest. I'm glad that you're enjoying it. We're having a great time with that campaign, and many of the players, I think at this point after our last session, are ready for level 5, and probably 1 or 2 even level 6. So they're about to break into what I would consider to be solidly season 2 and potentially even season 3 range levels. So they're going to start to move into those kind of adventures that are written for levels 5 to 7, and that really does up the ante. If you follow, old school D&D modules and such, you'll see kind of the level of challenges that they'll be facing. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I'm sure they are as well. So getting back to our, so as I said, our recaps will be coming up, and that's kind of a very, very brief recap of sessions 28 and 29. I'll go into much more detail for that video. The other thing I wanted to push forward, and I was looking to actually touch bases with and do an interview with Venger Satanis talking about Venger Con. So Venger Con 2022, and I'm officially starting to advertise for it now. I'm going to start advertising the game sessions that I will be running when I get there, although one of them may or may not be exactly, I haven't picked the game system precisely for it, but I will be running games at Venger Con 2020. This is on July 22nd through 24th. I'll be arriving on July 21st. Haven't decided if I'm flying there or driving. Got to wait and see what the airfare is like. And I will be running the following games. I will be running the game adventure Whiskey Creek Runs Red, which is a Gangbusters BX system game or adventure. Gangbusters BX is written by Mark A. Hunt. So he has the license to do a kind of an OSR variant of Gangbusters. Really exceptional rule system. I actually ran this adventure in 4 different conventions, and in all 4 of them, in 3 of them, the groups actually came up with a different solution for a successful conclusion, and the 4th one actually duplicated one of the other 3 groups' conclusion of it. And they were all successful, so nobody actually failed it. And that's not because there wasn't a good chance of failure, but there was, they were just smart about it. They were actually pretty good players, experienced players, and so none of them fell into any of the pitfalls that they might have. The second game the second adventure I'm going to run is Black Harlow's Breech. This is using the Blackest of Deaths RPG. This is a graphic fantasy horror RPG by Bloat Games. The third that I'm going to run is entitled The Pheasant. This is using Fantasy Ground Unlimited Bushido, and it is kind of simplified. So it's a simplified version of it. So it is still their system, so it's not like it's Dungeons and Dragons-esque kind of Bushido, but it is still Fantasy Grounds Bushido, but it is simplified. And again, that's another adventure that I had written. Then finally, The Keeper of Quasqueton, not to be mistaken with our campaign, The Keepers of Quasqueton. This is The Keeper of Quasqueton, and this is going to be either a D&D BX or possibly some OSR clone of a basic Dungeons and Dragons game. So it could be Osric if I want to go with an AD&D First Edition, or it could be Holmes Edition. It could be Beckme. I haven't really decided which one I'm actually going to use. I could also use OSE, which I may actually have by July. So if I do have OSC, I might actually use that system. So I haven't quite decided which system I'm going to use, but it is going to be a classic high fantasy basic level game system. So those are the 4 adventures that I'm looking to run. All 4 adventures I've written myself. And 3 out of the 4 I've actually play tested at conventions previously. So I know that they easily run between 3 and 3.5 hours long. And they're really enjoyable experiences. So I'm looking forward to running all of those. Let's check out the next comment. Yes, greetings, Indigo. Good to see you. I know this is a really weird time. I never do these at this time. It's just my work schedule is so crazy this week that I wasn't quite sure if I was going to get a chance to actually do these in the evening. And I wanted to catch up. I was hitting around the 7-day mark or even later as far as getting videos up, and so just wanted to do a little catch up. So yeah, I'm kind of in my second office. I have 2 different offices, and this is my second office in my school building, and then I'll be in my union office later on this afternoon. So let's move on to. So that's Venger Con, and that is the 4 adventures that I'm planning on running. And I also wanted to do a nice, a different mix of OSR gaming out there. So you have your Gangbusters, you have kind of like a meat grinder. Blackest of Deaths is kind of like the meat grinder version of a D&D basic. You have Bushido, which is not D&D at all, and then a classic D&D BX or OSR retro clone of Dungeons and Dragons for Keeper of Quasqueton. So now I do know that I have at least 2 members, or at least as a last check-in, I have at least 2 members of my AD&D group attending Venger Con. And so I will tell them right now that Keeper of Questaton is one that they can't join. But I certainly hope that they do join any of the other 3 games, if not all 3 games. So that'll be a lot of fun. And I also have a couple other games that I want to play on the side, so not really part of the convention itself. A couple board games, a couple things like mostly just like board games, small, compact little board games and card games and things like that I just want to test around and play around. And that doesn't, also it doesn't include the games that I'm going to join as a player and check out some of the other things at Venger Con as well. So I'm really looking forward to see how many people are going to attend and what games they're running, and hopefully get to hopefully there'll be some panels, and there'll also be plenty of gaming for me to get into as well. Plus vendors. I'm hoping that there's vendors and see what you guys are selling, and see what I can buy a few things and come home with a nice little number of games that I can then review for the channel. So finally, I know this has been a really crazy week. If you've been following at all, the news, obviously, there's things that are going on in the news, and there's been somewhat of a debate about taking real world events and bringing them into your game, and and it doesn't really matter which game. You can draw parallels to any kind of game system that you happen to be playing, looking at world events, whether it's the Freedom Truckers in Canada, or now the Russian invasion of the Ukraine. And if you're going to bring current events into your game, how you should handle them. I'm certainly not going to get into a huge debate over that now. I'll probably do a separate video on that. I will just say that I think that there's a place in the hobby to do that kind of a thing. I would just warn that you have to make sure that you're not doing it to the level of it just being insensitive. So it might be a little bit unseemly. So just be responsible when you're doing it. But it is certainly something that you can include current event themes in your games, and that's what I'll probably get into when I do get a chance to actually do a video on that. So let's see. We have who are you hoping to meet or see again at the con? So I haven't been to a game convention con since Gen Con 18. So that was 1985. So it's been a long time. I don't think I'll see anybody at this con that was at that con. I look forward to seeing, obviously, Venger Satanis. I want to play in one of his live games. So that's absolutely something I want to do. I have, as I said, two of my players will be attending, at least as of now. I have Cedric, who plays is Ivan, who plays Cedric the Magic User, and Kelly Foote, who plays our former Ranger Angus, who's now a fighter. And looking forward to meeting them two, and obviously, and playing some games with them in person will be great. Plus going out and having some drinks and just talk about gaming and other things. So it's always great, to meet your players. I know that sounds like bizarre for any of us that have been in the tabletop role-playing hobby for a really long time. It's like, but just the chances of going to a convention in person, after these last 2.5 years nearly, and well, it's actually 2 years this month, but looking to get back into physical spaces and meeting people and gaming live is just going to be a really good experience. Going back, looking back at just playing exclusively online for the last 2 years, it's really looking forward to it. So let's get back to our banners, and I'll keep an eye on comments. So the last banner I was going to do was that, so OSR Trends of the Week, Twilight 2000. I mean, clearly Twilight 2000 is going to be an RPG that is just coming to everybody's minds. Obviously, a totally different scenario than first edition Twilight 2000. I never played second edition, and I believe there's a fourth edition that was just released recently, so I don't know how that's actually changed either. But if I were to do a Twilight 2000 campaign based on what's going on now, there's just so much information, so much background information and lore that was built into that original Twilight 2000 game that you could absolutely duplicate or come very close to duplicating a campaign around what's happening in real events. And that's why I give that little warning that you want to make sure that you're not being insensitive about it. And and still, I mean, I'm on the fence as well as to whether or not you should do it, especially now. Well, there's many things that are just kind of up in the air. Whether this will continue for a long time, become much worse, or just evaporate and like nothing, no big deal, beyond what's already happened. Occurs. So there's a lot up in the air, but I know I see a lot of comments about Twilight 2000, and some are kind of tongue in cheek, like, oh, Twilight 2000 predicted this, and others are saying, well, you can certainly duplicate it in your game. Others are saying, well, you can take the themes of what's going on, a very aggressive, powerful country invading another country, and bringing up all those questions of what would heroic fantasy characters, how would they respond to such a thing, and so on. So there's different nuances that you can use from the overall theme, and how you can implement that into your game. So yeah, Twilight 2000 is certainly something that is trending. I would say a lot of different players or a lot of different commenters on YouTube are bringing it up and talking about the game system, and just making that connection to current events. It's probably the most aligned with what's going on. Game systems out there, is Twilight 2000. Somebody can certainly correct me and say, hey, you know what, this game is actually better. I didn't purchase fourth edition because I have first edition. I'm perfectly happy with first edition, so I didn't, didn't feel the need to buy Twilight 2000, a different edition than what I played back in the day. And but if you've actually played fourth edition, and you want to leave some comments in the comments section once this video goes live, you're certainly welcome to. I'd appreciate it so I can see, hey, you know what, here's a good comparison between the two. So other than that, I mean, I will check back on the comments again as we go forward. Once again, channel news for those of you that are just coming in now a little bit later. Videos for this week will be delayed due to work. That's why I'm doing this video from work during my lunch break. So, and I'll be returning to my regular schedule. It actually should have been March 5th, not March 6th. So Saturday, March 6th. It could be Sunday, March 6th, actually. And then will certainly be the following week onto my regular schedule. So that shouldn't be a problem. Getting back into the swing of things. Another follow-up. So the Keepers of Quasqueton campaign session 30 will resume either today or later on this week or the weekend. I know initially I spoke to my players on Discord, let them know that there was a good chance I wasn't going to be able to make it. I sent that out, earlier on this morning, or maybe even it was last night. And then today I just discovered that, my colleague is better, might be back in today, and may not have to fill in for his schedule the rest of this week. So I'm going to play it by ear and see how he gets through today, and whether or not I have to pick up the slack the rest of the week remains to be seen. Hopefully, knock on wood, he's feeling better and able to carry the load. And then once again, just another Venger Con 2022, July 22nd to 24th. Game sessions, I've already talked about my 4 game sessions that I'm looking to run. I've been tweeting with and messaging with Venger, so I know Venger is putting together the schedules and stuff, and then he is going to post those on tabletop events. So that's where you'll be able to go on tabletop events. I'll leave a link to Venger Con once this video gets uploaded, and I'll put a pinned comment that will have the link for Venger Con, in the pinned comment, and that way you can go and take a look at it. I believe last time I checked, there was something like 16 people attending, but a lot of people have been wading through and seeing with some of the COVID restrictions and everything changing, especially over this current month and everything. A lot of the mandates are coming down anyway, a lot of the masking mandates and other mandates. So I'm hoping that leading into the summer that we'll be back to nearly normal. And the convention should fill up by that point to the maximum he was looking for was like 100. And 100 would be phenomenal because, you can get up to 20 tables or even, 15 to 20 tables going, all gaming and just, nice enough number, not too big, not too small, and actually be able to have a great time. Just imagine meeting 100 other players that are into the OSR and and just playing each other's games and seeing new adventures that people have written for it specifically, or new game systems that people are going to bring. So really looking forward to it. Let's see, any other comments? So who am I hoping to meet? I already answered this question. I don't know. Hopefully, he puts up a list of. Hopefully, he puts up a list of attendees that are going. I got some some 8th graders going crazy in the hallway. So as we're getting close to the end of this period, and so yeah, 1:47. So yeah, about 10 minutes. People shouldn't be in the hall yet. But anyhow, yeah, just another crazy day in a New York City public school, middle school. So once again, thanks for joining. Hey, yo. Hello, Squirrel Hermit. Interesting name. Yes. So I've been talking for a little bit about just in general my overall week schedule as far as gaming and videos. I've been talking quite a bit about Venger Con, which is due to come up very soon. I'll throw that up here. So Venger Con is going to be on July 22nd through the 24th. And the game sessions I will be running there, at least these are the ones that I'm planning on running. Whiskey Creek Runs Red is a Gangbusters BX by Mark A. Hunt. Black Hollow's Breech, which is a Blackest of Deaths game written by the game system is Bloat Games. The Pheasant is a Bushido Fantasy Grounds Unlimited adventure that I had written. And Keeper of Quasqueton, which is going to be either a D&D BX or an OSR fantasy game that I'm looking to run there. So let's see. Hi from Canada. Well, hello, Facebook user from Canada. Good to see you. Hope you're faring well in Canada. Hopefully, you're not getting blocked by too many truckers, and you're able to freely move about. So let's see. Sounds like we just overheard a murder going on in the background. Yeah, yes. Middle school in New York City can be quite challenging. Although we haven't had any murders, so that's always a good thing. No Strixhaven. You're hearing Strixhaven in the hallway right now. So there's no cafes here, and so this is a true schooling experience. I doubt they have anything like this in Strixhaven. So there's no dragon headmasters to quell the unruly students, and just. Yeah, so I am not running Strixhaven at Venger Con. I don't think Venger would allow anybody to run Strixhaven, but maybe he would. He's very open-minded when it comes to that, But let's see. So the Keepers of Questaton, cool. I wish I could make it. I wish you could too. That would be awesome for you to make Keeper of Questaton. It's basically from my. It's from our campaign, but there's a reason why it's just called Keeper of Questaton, and none of my players can play in this one because they kind of know the story behind it. Although this is tweaked and modified for just convention play. So let's see. This is John Scott. Well, hello, John Scott from the first edition AD&D group on Facebook, and yeah, I wish you could make it. It's probably not that far. It's in Madison, Wisconsin. So I don't know what part of Canada you're in. Canada's a big country too. So, but yeah, it would be great to meet you because I know I really enjoy your channel. And, I know we have very similar interests, both not just in first edition AD&D, but in other tabletop role-playing interests as well. So really looking forward to, I wish you could make it. That would be nice. Hopefully you'll make it to, so Squirrel Hermit, I hope that you can. Again, I know a lot of these things kind of tend to be in like the Midwest or, like Texas and such like that. And I really wish there were more conventions out there. There are some in New Jersey and everything. There's very, very few in New York. Comic-Cons, yes, but very few gaming conventions in New York, or they're more geared towards other types of gaming and not specifically role gaming. So let's see. Wow, they're really out of control out there today. So we're near the end of a class period. So you live it every yes, I do. I don't know if I think I live the antithesis of Strixhaven every day. So Cal, hola, how are you? And I will be wrapping this up very soon. So any of you that are coming on now, you'll just watch the rewind of it, and I'll get back to you. Let's see. One day I hope something to save up for. Yeah, I mean, and I'm trying to even limit like the cost of going to this con as well. I might actually drive in case, if the airfare is going to cost me anything like much over 400, I'm not going to do it. I'd rather drive 13 hours in one direction, each way than spend $400 or $500 to fly there. So let's see. If and I can get the time off, I'll be there. Yeah, that'll be cool. It's in July, so it's quite a long ways off, and hopefully you'll have some summertime vacation to go use. I mean, I'm speaking from a place of privilege that being a school teacher, I have my summers off. Generally speaking, sometimes I'll do pensions during the summertime. Although I may be retired by this summer, so that'll be even better. I wish I could remember the baloney I heard about the Strixhaven book on Sunday. I mean, some of the stuff that I've heard about Strixhaven, and I'm never going to get it. I'm never going to read it. I just go based on the people, what they say, and then these are from people like Scott who really love Strixhaven. So I'm not even basing it on people who mock it or say it's terrible or whatever. I'm going based on what the people that really like it say about it, and nothing they say about it, even though they think it's a positive, it just sounds terrible to me. So I don't know. I don't know how it's how it can be viewed as being very positive when their most positive points of it are, to me, negative. I mean, it's just not Dungeons and Dragons. I retired in November of last year. I highly recommend it. Yeah, well, it's an interesting time. It's an interesting time as far as school systems are concerned. A lot of changes going on. Plus, my oldest daughter is going into college. Well, she's been in college, but she's been remote, and now she's going to be going in person next year, and she's going to a 4-year college now. So we have that issue, and then my youngest one is going to be a 12th grader in high school. So if I could put off for a year, but I really don't. I'm not really looking forward to a school year next year. Not if I can easily retire and spend more time gaming and such, without my wife killing me. So that's the other balance in there. The store sales pitch for Strixhaven. I don't know what the store sales pitch could be for Strixhaven. I was planning on going into the local store, which is a good distance away from me. There's not that many game stores anymore, and taking a look and seeing. And I have a very good, I have great reason to believe that the stock of books that they have for 5e have not changed. They're the same stack of 4 books of. I mean, they have many different copies of it, but many different books on their shelf, but they're all 4 or 5 books on the shelf, uniform across the board, as if no one's ever touched them. And to me, I think that that's probably the case. And every single gaming table, which is probably about 8 tables, when I've gone in there and like 6 of the 8 tables were full, they're all playing Magic the Gathering. no one is playing Dungeons and Dragons in there, and the Dungeons and Dragons display of books is right in front of them on by the tables, and they're just not using them. They're not playing it. So I'd have to look at their schedule and see how many. But I guarantee you that 3 out of 4 scheduled events is Magic the Gathering, and then the 25% of the time it's something else, and probably not always Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition either. So I'll have to take a look at it. Oh, let's see. I missed this here. I'll never retire. My dad's 91 and still going. Yeah, it's not so much a matter of when to retire. It's just when to move on into your next phase. If you're ready for a new phase in life, then that's why retirement is there. And there's some, like, I do pensions for people, and at certain levels of the number of years that they spent in their career, you start getting upside down. In other words, you're making more money sitting home retired because you're not paying a lot of taxes. New York State pensions aren't taxed by New York State, so it ends up saving you about $6,000. And then if you have long commutes and other things like that, it actually really starts to become cost effective not to work. Especially once you start hitting if you start hitting Social Security age as well. So now we're hitting passing time in my school, so it's going to probably get really loud. So let's see. I retired 16 years ago to pursue my hobby more. Now I work 26 hours a day. Yes, that is certainly something. Like I said, I have a wife, and so she will not let me play games all day long. So if your wife lets you do that, Dave, all the power to you. You are a lucky man. But no, I have a non-gaming wife as well, so it makes it even more difficult. I was definitely ready for a new phase. I spent 28 years in my career. Yes, and if that was your military career, that's a huge long career, and I can really appreciate that. So it's passing time. So I have just one more period before my class period. So let's give it 1 second. Okay, just about. So in my best FLAGS, the D&D books sit there. Yeah, I don't really see that they're working. Yeah, I really don't see that they're working. They're selling that many. I mean, I would never ask them because they'll probably give you, oh no, they sell, but I really don't think that they do. Yes, indeed. I mean, and thank you very much for those, for those kind words of, I really do try to keep the OSR alive. And as some of you may know, I have kind of like 3 different definitions of the OSR. So I say it's the old school revival, which for me means that you're reviving the old school games, and you're playing those first edition games and such. And for me, OSR is not just Dungeons and Dragons. All right, and so that's maybe another difference between myself and others. Like I'm running Bushido, Fantasy Grounds Unlimited Bushido. To me, that's OSR. It's an old school role playing game. Anytime you're playing anything prior to 1990, I consider that to be old school. And so, whether you're playing, Star Frontiers or Bushido or Twilight 2000, first or even second edition at that point, that's all old school role playing. Or Dungeons and Dragons AT&D first edition, second edition, or any of the editions prior to that. And yes, the OSR carries the torch first lit by Gary, and yeah, I believe that too. I do not see, and I know J. Scott Garibay will argue against this, but you know, anything by Wizards of the Coast labeled Dungeons and Dragons does not carry Gary Gygax's legacy. I don't believe that Gary would have played it. I don't think that he would agree with it or see that it extends his legacy in any measurable way. Certainly not anything starting with Tasha's Cauldron and moving forward. Nothing that they've put out is even close to Dungeons and Dragons, in my opinion. Boot Hill is the ultimate role-playing game. Poo-poo. Is it really? All right, Aaron. Welcome, Aaron. I'm going to argue that Twilight 2000 is probably the ultimate in poo-poo. All right. Unless you mean poo-poo like shooting, and not poo-poo like shit. Yeah, I would lean towards. So that's just a real bias of mine. I would lean towards Twilight 2000, but Boot Hill. So Mark Hunt also puts out another BX version of a Western RPG that I certainly recommend you take a look at. Yes, poo like shooting. Yes. But yeah, Mark Hunt puts out a Western. It's called Tall Tales Western BX RPG game. So certainly look into it. It's really, really good. I spoke about it and probably showed it off in the last stream that I did with Max. So it was on the last Gatekeepers episode that I showed the book off and talked about it. So you should know about that because you should have watched it. But anyway, yes. So yeah, if you're looking for Boot Hill, like a reboot of it, then take a look at that game. 5e does not carry Gary's torch. No, it doesn't. There's expressions, right? It doesn't carry his water, doesn't carry his torch. It doesn't just carry. Sounds awesome. Did you really? I would love to meet Mark. I would absolutely love to meet Mark. He's a super nice dude. He's a former sheriff. So just to meet him on that circumstance would be nice as well. And looking forward to that. So, hopefully I get a chance to meet him at some point. Yeah, so Car Wars or Top Secret. I don't remember if I ever played Car Wars when I was a kid or a teenager. I don't know if I ever played that. Top Secret I did play, although we spent more time playing. James Bond 007 back then. Mostly card games and Tuesdays is D&D at my local. Yeah. It's mostly, yeah. And so one night a week is D&D. So that wouldn't surprise me. So Dragon Magazine up to 1990 covers it all. OSR. Gary said that 3rd edition D&D was a different game. Boot Hill was great. It would have been cool if Gamma World map and entire North America was used. It was a great video game that an MMO actually for post-apocalyptic was Fallen Earth. Phenomenal game. Certainly one of my favorite ones that if you're looking for post-apocalyptic gaming, that's certainly a game. I don't know if it's still running, but it was a lot of fun. If they ever converted that to an RPG, I would love to see that video game ported to an RPG. I guess it's kind of like Modiphius's Fallout. I think that Fallen Earth has a better theme to it, a better backstory to it than Fallout does. A little bit more unique. So Car Wars lets you take out frustrations on each other. Yeah, I mean, so it has a PvP focus on it. Like I said, I don't remember actually playing it. I could have back then, not really too sure. So, so yeah, maybe that's something I'll take a look into, and see if I can find a copy of it and take a look. So put that on my list. I was going to try to cut back on buying games. Maybe somebody at Venger Con will have a copy of Car Wars that they're selling, and then I could buy it. Kill two birds with one stone. But I certainly will look into it and see. Uh, is it just the original, or is there any other editions of Car Wars? I prefer to get the original anyway. I like older editions. If I've never played a game before, then I always like to get the first edition of it. If I've played a game before, um, then I'd like to get the edition that I played. So Car Wars would be something I'd probably look for the first edition. They relaunched Car Wars on. I'm not going to get into anybody's like little snipes at anybody, so so I'm going to skip that one. But yeah, I don't. I hope that doesn't mean that he got into a car accident. But so let's see. Original with some slight upgrades in layout. Okay. But yeah, layout improvements are great. I mean, that was the one thing that AT&T First Edition desperately needed was layout upgrades. Because it was just very, very difficult to get through, especially that DMG was very, very difficult to go through. Okay. So not a snipe. Yeah, I just, yeah. So anyway, they relaunched Harlow. So I don't know. I don't know how to take it. But anyway, let's see. What else do we have here? And let's get back to my banners. So we can talk about, so the trend this week, I think, is Twilight 2000. I've been seeing a lot of that lately, and get to that question. Maybe I'll bring up this question, later on in the week of, how do you incorporate live events into your game, if you look to do that at all anyway, and how do you ensure that you're doing it in a tactful way, because I think that you could really do whatever you're trying to do with it could end up being a disservice to to what you're intending on doing. So no, it doesn't. So does the school have a presence at the school with the kids? No, it really doesn't. And there's there are some art clubs, and there was a chess club for a while, but I mean, it's Fortnite is the big thing. With these students, it's much more tech savvy. I even my own kids who are Stranger Things fans, and they were Stranger Things fans not because of Dungeons and Dragons. They were Stranger Things fans because they liked the boys that were in the show. And that's something I used to try to like explain. I was like, no, the newer generation, I bought the box set of Stranger Things, trying to get my youngest daughter involved with it, and she was like, no, there's too much reading. She was like, she's a great student. I mean, she loves reading. She reads all the time. She would live in Barnes and Nobles if she could. She likes physical books. She likes to read all the time. I mean, she probably got $300 worth of Barnes and Nobles gift cards, and she'll use every penny of it. But when it came to actually playing an a tabletop RPG, she was like, no, I'm not reading that. Or I was like, yeah, but it's Dungeons and Dragons. It's the Stranger Things edition of Dungeons and Dragons. You're actually going to be playing. No, I don't want to do that. That's nerdy. They like the show for the boys, nothing else. So yeah, this generation of kids. So I'm looking at our kids here are grades 6, 7, and 8, and Fortnite. Yeah, tons of them. Not even like Magic the Gathering. No, it's like the card games and everything. I think those hobbies are really out of their price range. But when you have a game like Fortnite, it's free to play. They have technology, so they don't short themselves on technology, but they're certainly not going to buy books that are, this is the South Bronx. This is not, a place where, they're going to spend $50 on a hardcover, and, for a game, and then spend that time reading and everything. So no, it's I don't see it at this generation picking up and playing, playing the games. And that's two different, very different demographics. Um, you know, two different locations. That's suburban, rural versus inner city, and kids are kids. I think, and kids just aren't turning to tabletop role playing games at this age level. Yeah, the school where I work. Yeah, no, I don't see it. Yeah, it's like they're. I mean, you might get one or two. You again. It is still a boy's hobby, and I know people will go nuts over that and say that there's more chances of boys playing it than girls, but that might change once you start getting to college level, college age. But for the most part, it is still predominantly a boys' hobby. Tabletop role playing games are a boys' hobby. Like I said, it might not be the same way as it was back in the 70s and 80s. There might be more girls involved with it, but I think the girls are going to be involved with it at the college age level, not so much at 14, 15, 16. They're just not. I couldn't convince my girls to get into it, and I think I know some people say, "Oh, the worst thing you could do as a parent is try to get your kids involved with your hobby," but um, then that throws out the whole idea that Stranger Things really produced, the next generation of D&D players. Doesn't pan out. Yeah, again, I mean, I guess if you got them early enough and got them involved with it, and maybe that's something that I didn't look to get my girls involved with it until really the end of the first season of Stranger Things. So they were my youngest one was probably at that point 12 or 13 years old. And this is pre-COVID as well. So no, they just didn't get into it. Yeah, I mean, there's there's always been a lot of female writers in TSR that were contributing and writing. I mean, not just Margaret Weiss, but you had others. Some of those early adventures were the Palace of the Silver Princess. I'm missaying the name. I mean, it was written by a woman. So you had women in Dave Arneson's group as well, at least two, if not three women in his group as well. So, yeah, women go back in D&D or tabletop role-playing games going all the way back to the mid-'70s, but they were still, 10 to 15% of the overall gaming population. That there were still not that many of them. And even now, today, maybe they're double that amount. So maybe it's 30%. But I don't think that kicks in until college age. Yeah, I don't think it's more theory. I think it's a reality. I think it really, you know, the numbers worked out. The numbers proved it to be true. One of the best experiences I had as a parent is playing D&D with my son. I definitely agree with not getting them into my hobbies. Yeah, I mean, it's And that's true. I mean, I think it's easier to get sons involved in a father's hobbies, and it's easier for mothers to get their girls involved in their wants and interests as well. So again, you know, that might be an old school way of looking at it, might be sexist way of looking at it, might be chauvinistic, or or just a ancient way of looking at it. If some people saying that, but the point is that it's just what I see. Is that true? I don't know if they actually didn't actually like playing the game. Well, if you read that particular booklet, I mean, it's horrible. It's not even as good as the regular fifth edition basic set. Um, so it's like, yeah, I can see why. It's unplayable what they put out there. So the actors who played the kids in Stranger Things didn't even like playing D&D. Yeah, it's not their age group. Like I said, it's two oldest. Go away. I missed a thing here. I introduced my two oldest, 4 and 5. They'll like, but I know it still be it can't read. Looking at the thing over here, I have to read it here. I have introduced my two oldest, 4 and 5. They like it, but I know who's. Wow, it's so hard to read for some reason. But I who knows if it will stick. But they like board games, and maybe TTRPGs will click for them. But I agree, it's a boys' hobby. Okay. Sorry, I had trouble reading it. And girls, I should have said. They're young, though. I mean, 4 and 5, that's really young for tabletop role playing games. I would say probably the youngest should be like 8. It's not at all chauvinistic. Well, it depends on whose perspective. I mean, I'm sure many people say, "Oh, that's total toxic masculinity," and you're, well, listen, it's a reality. It's sorry, sorry to break it to you, but it's a reality. Yeah, I mean, certain things are, there's not that many girls looking to play football. There's not that many boys looking to play field hockey. There are, and then you have those things that are open to both. You have, soccer, football. Um, that's open to both, probably equally so. Boys don't really play softball at a professional level, but girls do. So there's differences throughout sports that you can see. I just see way more boys express interest in tabletop. Yeah, I mean, it's just a fact in that they just do. It's more of our hobby now. Whether that's something that is instilled just in its inception, or is it? I know it's not pushed in the official writing. Like you won't find that in, you won't find that in the player's handbook anywhere, no matter what edition you're talking about. But it's just something that's there. It's just something. It's just a cultural thing. It's So let's see. Stranger Things brought D&D to the public awareness again, but it was Critical Role that made D&D 5e popular. I absolutely agree with that. And Critical Role isn't actually playing 5e, but there are people out there who want to attribute Critical Role to 5e, and I have always argued that I think Critical Role is what has made 5e or Dungeons and Dragons again a household name. Critical Role is almost on equal household name footing to Dungeons and Dragons. I think that they're inseparable, and I couldn't tell you who's writing whose coattails. I think right now it's neck and neck. I think that if Critical Role clearly split from 5e, that they would have an equal number of people following them as people following and still continuing to play 5th edition. So I think they easily split the current gaming community between them. So that's just my take on it. One of my players DM'd a game with his daughter and niece. They played on their own for a while afterwards. I'm not sure if they stuck with it. Yeah, I mean, like I have a niece who's like 23 years old now, and she was playing, and she was looking to run for her, run a game her first time, and so no one in her gaming group had any hard copy of any of the D&D books, so none of the 5e books at all. So she said they all, like, one person had bought got the PDFs, and they just made copies and shared it with everybody, at the table, and no one had a physical book. So when we were talking and she said that she wanted to start DMing, I got her the Essentials kit. And I gave her my copy of Sword Coast Legends because I needed just shelf space on my thing. I just wanted to reduce everything down to the core 3, except for obviously Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 1st and 2nd edition. But 3, 4, and 5, I just have the core books of each. And Pathfinder 1st edition, I just have the 3 core books, and that's it. And so I gave her, that copy there. And she was like, wow, these are the first hardcover, or physical copies of the games that we actually have, and so I encouraged her to do that. And then probably for her birthday coming up, I will give her a copy of, I'm going to buy her a box set of like the Holmes edition or something like that. I'll go on eBay and get her a copy of that and give that to her. The other thing I gave her, because she was an art student in college, was the Arcana, Art of Arcana, and she loves that book. So, but that's the old school art. So I'm probably going to get her a box set, an old school box set, and say, now try playing this with your group and see which game system you actually like better. So kind of do like a bait and switch with her. So what made 5e popular was when WotC worked so hard to make all other editions extremely hard to find. Well, yeah, you know what? They did this with comic books, all right? Because I used to be, when there was a comic book store in my town, I used to speak to the owner all the time. And he said the way that the comics book industry worked was that you had to buy a certain number of comics, even if you knew they weren't going to sell. All right, so you had to get those in order to get the ones that would sell. All right, and that's what Marvel was doing. That's what DC was doing and everything. So they would put out a bunch of crap. And then if you wanted this and then the alternate covers and everything like that, if you wanted all these things, then you had to buy them all, even the ones that you knew couldn't sell. And even worse was that you couldn't send unsold product back, all right, and get reimbursed for it. You were stuck with it. What I see when I walk into my local game shop is that they have 95% of the store is everything but 5th edition, all right? But there are no other tabletop role-playing games in that place. Everything is either miniatures, Magic the Gathering, some modeling, like models, like real models, and but mostly like statues and miniatures and those kinds of things. And I guarantee you that they wouldn't be allowed to stop. They would not get Magic the Gathering if they didn't carry WotC of 5e. All right. If they carry anything else along with 5e, they wouldn't be either allowed to have it on the same side of the store. Just like delis sometimes will have Coca-Colas in one refrigerator and Pepsi is in, the far side, of the other. And they can never be right next to each other. Well, you go into into a gaming store now, and you won't see any of those other tabletop role-playing games because they're not allowed to. They won't get Magic the Gathering, and Magic the Gathering is their bread and butter. And then after Magic the Gathering is miniatures and dice and those things there. And those 5e books that are sitting there have been sitting there forever. And I really don't think that they sell any copies of it, or very, very few. A lot of players I know use an iPad, notepad, and just use the PDFs. Yeah, I mean, that's really the way of the future is digital. And I think Wizards of the Coast is going digital. Will they go print on demand? I think that's the new model that they're going to move to. And they're going to stop producing hardcover books, or give you the option. You can get the hardcover book, but you have to get it on print on demand, using something like Drive-Thru already has. But actually stocking shelves in stores and everything, I don't see it happening. The people that they just hired, are all digital-based people, or gaming, computer gaming, digital Microsoft connections, and that's what they're going to push. Yeah, I think that they'll either buy out D&D Beyond, or they'll create their own and then sue D&D Beyond to stop using D&D. I think that they'll probably just buy them out and and incorporate that and just build from there. So I think that one bookshelf will be stripped of being able to sell D&D products if Wizards of the Coast runs their own shop. They can do that through D&D Beyond as well, and I think that you'll see that separation, and they will strip away one bookshelf, or they may go the other route and just buy out one bookshelf and move. But I don't think that they'll do that because, see, right now, contrary to what some people say, 5e lost money last year. It certainly was on the decline in 2021. Overall, Wizards of the Coast did not make as much as it did in 2020-21. So 2021 going into 22, it made, I believe, 8% less. 5e had 8% less of the market share. I recall Wizards of the Coast, mostly on the back of Magic the Gathering, was over $1 billion in 2019 to 2020, and in this past year, 2021 and into 22, it was 900,000 for, or just under $1 billion for all of their properties. So they declined someplace. They lost about 100 million in market share, in that past year. And I don't know if it came from Magic the Gathering, or it came from it came from 5e, or it came from maybe board games or whatever. But they certainly lost market share last year, and that's something that was out there in their trade reports and such, was that their not trade reports, the shareholders reports, was that somewhere they never identify exactly how everything breaks down. But I know 5e went from being roughly 59% of the tabletop role-playing hobby to 51%. So they lost 8% of their market share. Okay, I am going to have to run and check. Let's see, any last comments? Yeah, I'm going to have to run and take a look at my next class schedule. So thanks everyone for joining in. As I said at the very beginning, this week is going to be a little bit erratic as far as my scheduling is concerned, and getting, hopefully I'll get my game going tonight, and we'll see about the video schedule. I will most likely take much of Saturday and move forward on Saturday getting caught up. Yes, $400 each for the books. It's not going to happen. That was the craziest thing I've heard. As no one's paying $40, a price point $40 for a book, and I don't think very many of those monster, dragon models at $400 a piece are not going to sell either. Now, when you can get this smaller one for $99, it looks just the same. So I think it's. I don't think that $400 each is something that people are going to sell. And to make that a selling point and saying, oh well, we're gonna rope in the whales. If you're roping in whales, you're going video games. I mean, no other thing carries whales like video games do. People will spend, myself included, you just don't even realize it. It's like $20 here, $40 there. And before you know it, you're flying in the best Star Trek ship, being able to PvP and do dominate. But you're not going to pay $400 over 6 months on a single tabletop role-playing game. You might spread it out across a number of them, but in the video game, you don't even notice it sometimes. It's like, oh crap, I just realized how much I spent on this. It just happens by accident almost. You don't think $10 here, $20 there, downloaded content, this and there. They really do, nickel and dime you through the whole experience. You're not going to see that on a tabletop role-playing hobby. Not to the same extent. 3D printing version at a fraction of the cost. Absolutely. Yes, I heard about that with Invisible Sun. It's just like there's a certain, once you get to a certain price point, you're just laughing. I mean, even their new expanded, their expanded books that Wizards of the Coast just put out. It's like, I don't need Mordenkainen's, this and that, and whatever those 3 books are for $160 when I can get a used copy of those on eBay or even just get the older, the regular ones on Amazon for $29 a piece. It's like, I'm not paying $160 for 3 books that are really supplements. And the other thing that I realized was that they don't even sell the PDF versions, PDF copies anywhere of the core books for $5, which I think is really silly. It's a bad business model. Not to at least give people the opportunity to buy in at that level. So any people running around with PDFs of the core 3 books of 5e, those are pirated copies, and they encourage it by not providing that outlet themselves for people to do that. So anyway, I got to run because we're about to change classes again. So you all have a great rest of your week. I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon, and we will pick up on, hopefully maybe Friday I'll get a video up, but certainly by Saturday. We'll get the last couple things in here. They're only RPG company that doesn't sell PDF versions of their core books. I know it's stupid. It's a bad business model. And it's just a stupid business. Maybe their new CEO is going to change that because she's coming from a digital platform, and they moved Wizards of the Coast to the digital division of Hasbro. And so I think that writing, I think, is pretty much on the wall, that they're going to go strictly digital. And my prediction was that they're going to go to POD, print on demand, for all of their books in the future. Saves them a lot of shipping costs and everything like that, because POD is always printed locally, or as locally as possible, and so you eliminate the shipping cost of doing that kind of thing. You also eliminate the warehousing and everything else like that. So I think that's the 2024. If you're not ordering print on demand for your D&D 6th edition, then you're just going to have the PDF of it. So once again, thanks for joining. Thanks for popping in on such an impromptu, never before done, during the workday, video. And stay healthy, stay safe, and enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks for coming in.